Good evening, bon tardi, Curaçao. I'm happy to provide this webinar on your talents as a competitive edge. As you can see, I'm wearing a sweater. I'm from Denmark, and it's a lot colder here and already night in the evening, late in the evening. Like I said before, happy to be present on this webinar for the organization, and a thank you for Joyce for allowing me this opportunity. I will discuss with you tonight the significance of making your talents visible and making them available for not only for your own career, but also to have an economical value as you want to contribute in our society, doing a job. Let me first start with sharing some general information that I'm getting around. I'm traveling a lot around the world, meeting a lot of companies on different levels, from CEO to line managers and what we call in our business slang frontliners. And I'm always particularly curious in how they are dealing with all the challenges they have. Not only in the business, but also in how they foresee their future. And in that way, I just want to stipulate, I'm not a trend watcher or something of that kind, but I want to share this model with you. And the first thing that I want to share with you is, you might think like, what is this? I see some people in the middle, some robots, some words, and a big word of disruption. Now, let me phrase one thing at first. When people are thinking about a job, they always think about some kind of office and a construction where there is a chief in command, there are management, there are resources, there's infrastructure. But as we see it in the world now, people are also getting much more independent, and they connect with each other based on doing some wild and crazy stuff. You see that especially in the startup companies. But what I want to symbolize with this picture is, if you look at how our world is going to be disrupted, and you can think about the geopolitical movements, you can think about climate change, you can think about globalization, you can think about the migration we are facing in the world. All kinds of economical deficits that are around the world, and economical growth. You can also think of artificial intelligence, robotics. Anyway, there is so much going on in the world that we have to face. And let me share a few samples of a few of my customers. As I said, I live in Denmark, and my brother-in-law is working for Maersk. This is the big container shipping company, actually the world leading, and they have over 1,000 of these mammoth tankers sailing around the ocean. Well, they are headed for a strategy that within 10 years, the whole fleet will be sent over the oceans, unmanned and with renewable engines. So if you take that in mind, what do you think that will, how that will impact the world of being a captain or a sailor? How that will impact the world of logistics? In Munich, in Germany, at this point, 40 cabs are driving without a chauffeur. As a passenger, you come in, you zip your credit card in a voice operating system, you tell the artificial intelligence, the computer, where do you want to go? And you will be guided through the normal traffic, safely and brought to your destination. So how will that affect the way that we are dealing with our mobility? Of course, I don't have to tell you anything about renewable engines. Just think about it, how companies like Mercedes and Volvo and Golf are disrupted just by the little small startup company of Tesla. Let me give you another example. So many people are going to the office. I am born in Holland, and Um, I'm working with our methodology and our tools for a insurance company, and they have over 700 people commuting day to day to their office in order to work on insurance claims from their clients. They do the assessment, they do the checkups, they do the reference checks, they kind of assess the claim if it's legitimate to redeem the insurance money. I'm also working in Austria with a company, and they have completely automated this. That means that you fill in a template. If you have a claim, the template is assessed by artificial intelligence, going through the whole process until making the decision to pay or not to pay. There's no human touch anymore. So what do you think that will do to the 700 people working in Holland, driving down up and down to their job, getting stressed by all the queue times? The world is going to be disrupted, especially on the technology part, and that gives us a huge opportunity to change and to do the things in a different way. That means we should not be able to, we should not allow that computers or artificial intelligence or robotics are taking over, but we should use them and focus on what we can add as value as a person. And therefore, if I look at the future of our societies, global societies, work would always be a tremendous, significant activity of humankind. But think about it: if you're about to apply for a job, where do you think that you can contribute in the next coming years? Is that based on your hard skills? Would that be based on your experience? Would that be based on your education, or does it come from something else? In other words, do you really want to compete with a computer, or do you want to focus on your true strengths? And now I'm coming back to the picture, and then I will stop from this conceptual thought or vision that I have. But I truly believe that if people dealing with all the disruption, all the new technology, all the new impulses they are getting, all the opportunities there are, that is from a intellectual point, I don't think a big challenge for humankind, but it is the speed where things are changing. It is almost impossible to really internalize, to adapt to it and internalize. So the only thing that companies are doing now, if they are smart, and you can actually see this in startups, they are making sure that the talents they have on board are not only capable of doing the job right now, but also in a half a year or in a year's time, because they want to look forward. And if you ask, we call this need assessments. We are doing a lot of assessments in different kind of industries to see, like, where do you actually think that you need your workforce? What kind of competences or talents do they need? Their picture is we can maybe estimate in what we need in half a year, in a year. In companies like the huge ones, they will also work with trend watchers. They say maybe 1.5 years, but that's it. That's the window they have. So if you look at how companies are going to work and how work works, then you really have to stipulate on your talents. It's not about what you can do now, but it is the potential you have that you can deliver in half a year to make yourself relevant and to be a part of sustainability. So coming down to the word talents, later on I will stipulate with you how to identify talents, because you need to construct. We need to have a clear understanding in how we talk about that. Let me go one step further. It is actually the talents in an organization that decide the culture of an organization. And what do I mean with that? Actually, if you look basically, why are we communicating? why are we connecting with each other? It is actually to connect the brains. I have my thoughts, but if I communicate with somebody else, I connect my brains, and then we know more than just me by myself. And this connection defines your culture, and that is based on your values, but also on the way you can contribute, the way you can pay attention, that you are giving attention. It's really a social part. And I don't mean that you have to be sweet with each other or nice with each other on a once a year barbecue, but I really mean in day-to-day life. You know, what are the ethics? How do you appraise each other? Is there an open and safe community that if you see that the organization is headed for something that is not good enough, are you really willing of opening up your mouth and sharing your voice? Is that accepted? This is the culture that we mean. And basically, if you look at the left-hand side, you see on the top, it's about identity. The culture is actually defining your corporate identity. In other words, the corporate branding. How do companies expose themselves and make them visible into the market? It is based on their identity. What do we stand for? What kind of added value do we bring into the market? And maybe you have read it in different statements of surveys or statements from companies or in other keywords. We always say, like, human capital is the warmest and the best asset in an organization. All the other things can be bought, can be structured. That is not the essence, but it is the human factor. And how is it then that we are dealing with this, that we try to provoke or impose people to work according to a certain kind of protocol or procedure that is actually just constraining people or limiting to do what they are capable of. So when I look into an organization, I think an organization can only have a bright future if they're embracing the talents. And that is also saying something about, you know, how they are working with each other. Then I go to the right-hand side. As I said before, the disruption in itself, all the elements of new technology, etc., that is not the biggest challenge. Intellectually, we can actually deal with that, but it is the complexity and it is the speed that is making it tough to deal with. And therefore, you see companies trying to find a way that they can work much more agile. And what do we actually mean by agile? It's not just a protocol that is derived from the IT structures, but it is actually giving people the right mandate, connecting people in the right way, aligning the talents with the work content, and allowing them to have the mandate of what they're doing. As leadership, you should not step in and tell them what to do, but you should challenge them on their talents. So this agile working with talents is also having a big impact on leadership. And let me go a little bit into the science of that. Probably you've heard that somewhere around the Industrial Revolution, the focus was on getting mass production and being productive. And at that time, there was some technology, but we also needed people to do repetitive work. And Taylorism, where scientific management is based upon, actually means cutting the head, call it management, from the body. The body is the vehicle and the head is the thinker. But in these days, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, have a break. Would you like to be regarded as just a machine that is doing repetitive work? Will you accept leadership based on authority because they have the role and they can bark at you? That doesn't fit. So working agile will also impact leadership models and organizational models tremendously. And therefore, I think if a company is really willing of having social economical impact, adding value to the markets, they should really embrace their talents and they should be capable and allowing people to reimagine how do we work, how does work work, according to the needs of our society. How can we improve our products, our services? We have to reimagine that every time. We cannot work on profiles that are compiled 6 years ago and think that we can hire people on that and then think, oh, now we got the greatest guy on board. I truly do not believe in that. And that is what you can see around the world. I travel quite a lot. It's not only in the Caribbean where I'm sometimes present. I'm traveling on the African continent. I'm traveling in the Arabic continent. Saudi Arabia is changing so many things in this contemporary way. It's amazing. So where does Curacao stand? If you're born on Curacao, you've done your education, maybe you've been to Holland or you did your study somewhere else, think about where do you stand in terms of critical thinking, in terms of citizenship, in terms of what do you need and expect from collaboration and communication. What about your digital literacy? Are you on top? Can you deal with all the new technology? What is your expertise and what are you thriving for? So having said this is what I call the future challenges for companies and for you as an individual. Stand out. Everybody is unique. The question is for what and under what circumstances. So stand out and present yourself in a way and don't make any concessions based on old paradigms in the world. So my first question is to you: if you're applying for a new position as a freelancer, or you want to connect with people, or you want to apply for a vacancy on a job, what do you actually expect? What would please you? What would make you happy? What would make you thrive in a way that you want to? So may I ask Saab? He has a polling list. There are a couple of questions that he can put on. So the first question is, what is most important for you? And may I ask you to make a ranking out of this? What do you think? And I'll give you some time that you can submit it, and then we can see how this is benchmarked in the world. Saad, will you let me know when you've collected all the data and present the outcome? I will give you 1 minute more as I follow our host who's taking care of this. Okay, we got one ranking, and that is pleasure in doing what I'm good at. Can I also ask the others to submit their ideas? Okay, let's. I'm assuming that we can present the outcomes, but let me share this with you. This is based on a survey that we have conducted, and I have to say it was in the Netherlands. So you have to take it a little bit with from that context. If I look at the questions, people are saying like, pleasure in doing what I'm good at. They rewarded on a scale of 10 with a 7.6. the thing that they are saying is actually most appealing is working in a well cooperating team. So this social connection that they have, that is actually the most valuable part of what they are thinking. And there's another one, and that is trust and safety. People are giving that a 7.4 in their ranking. And what does it mean, this trust and this safetiness? It is all about, am I allowed to speak out? When I'm doing something, are people willing of telling me, maybe you can do it in a better way? Can I help you out? This kind of safety, psychological safety, is appreciated very well. And what the survey also showed, if companies are engaging, we asked them the question, is leadership engaging? Is HR engaging in this to make sure that things are like that? It's also what they call an employee value proposition. Then you see amazing numbers. Going back to the pleasure in doing what I'm good at, if the companies are contributing and valuing it, employees are regarding this as a 9.2 on a scale of 10. Working in well cooperating teams, the 7.8 flips over to a 9.0. So apparently this social connection and this engagement and doing it together, this culture, is giving a lot of pleasure and a lot of a good performance. I will share some other surveys with you later on, but for me this is actually an extremely nice survey to stipulate that if you're applying for a job, normally what I've sensed in this recruitment process is that companies are actually presenting themselves in terms of marketing. Look how good we are, how things are rolling, the possibilities you have. But when it comes down to landing you, and then it goes back into practice, a lot of people are feeling like, hey, this was more like marketing slang than a reality check. But those companies who are really open, they have amazing numbers on retention, on productivity, on performance, but even amazing numbers on sick rate leaves, on short and long absence. And I think that if you think about, I am going to contribute with my skills, with my talents for a job, be very selective in who you want to work with. I think this should be based on equality. You both have something at stake. You both have a common goal, a common purpose. So that should also be a balance. And if companies cannot afford your talents in terms of payment or in the compensation and benefits, then don't go there. Don't waste your time at it. Your employability rate, your economical value will be dismantled if you take the wrong choice. So be very, very clear in what you want. This will help you as an individual, but also your society. Let's go a little bit more into details and say, like, okay, if you're talking about talents, what do we mean by talents? This is actually a game and an app that we use to visualize what we actually mean. And these are just symbols, of course. But the most important thing about the talents is actually, what are your human skills? What is humanity? What about the way you are presenting yourself, your emotional balance? What about your motives? What about your social talents or your influential talents or your organizational talents? And for us, in our methodology, we call it inclusive talent management. What we are stating is everybody is talented. Each person on earth is valuable and has talents. The only question is, for what? And of course, companies are also saying, yeah, but I have people who are really the top talents. Of course. Lionel Messi, the football player, is a top talent for the things he's doing. There are not a lot of people who can bring the same production or the service or whatever you want to call it as he does. And of course, you're allowed to have a special program for that. But if you're saying exclusive talent management, then you're also saying, okay, I have a group of talented people and I have a group of, how do you call them? Non-talented. And that's not our case. We believe that one talent cannot do the business. It is a combination of getting the right people on board and making them connect with each other. And that can only be done if you are capable of identifying your own talents, visualize them, and make them available for your surroundings. When you step on board in a company, you have to be aware, like, who am I and who are the others? Because you will learn and thrive together. Now, let us look at the behavioral model to give you some insights. What do we actually mean with talents? I made a kind of an iceberg metaphor, which is not really perhaps a good metaphor to use in the Caribbean, but nevertheless, I think most of them have an idea. There's something you see on the surface, and that is what we call your professional behavior. We call it your competencies, your skills. It is something that is observable, that is manifested, that can be is how people appraise your contribution. But where does it come from? And then we have to go deep down. And what we are saying, of course, there's something like a cognitive capability. What is what they call in general, your intelligence? What can you actually deal with on a cognitive level? And then the second part is, who are you as a human being? Your personality that has been developed, something is natural, something is nurtured, but it defines you. It defines when you came to maturity. It defines who you are. It gives you an identity. And from this, what we call preferred behavior, because the way you act, you do it a lot of time unconsciously, but it stipulates who you are. How do you respond to certain kind of circumstances? Some people have social talents. Why? Because they have a high need to connect with each other. That doesn't mean that an introvert person who doesn't have this need to socialize is an unsociable person, but he is very selective in who he's dealing with. So everybody has, from his own personal identity, from his personality, a kind of preferred behavior. And this drives and talents, that is what we call the talent zone. And everybody is unique in that. Everybody had his own birth, different parents, a different environment where people are raised, different challenges. And that is also relating to what kind of values and motivation you have, like what we call the intrinsic motivation. Something is triggering you. Why is somebody always looking for a challenge and the otherwise are more satisfied and say like, hey, I do my thing and I don't need to look for this adventure. Is the one better than the other? No. But it's then if you put it in the context of work or contributing in a job, then it makes a difference. Let me stipulate on, for example, one talent that we call is called decisiveness. Now, what do we mean with decisiveness? Some people have a natural response if they have to make decisions that they do it from their guts, impulsively. They use their brains, they are very pragmatic, and they are looking for how can I solve this challenge or this problem, and they take a choice immediately. You think like, wow, he's good in making a decision. He's not good. No, this is his preference, the value and the quality of the decision is not. There's nothing said about that. He's just making it impulsively. Against somebody else who's saying, if I make decisions, I check the balance. I ask other people what they would do. And so I'm considering and balancing before I make a challenge. Is that good? I don't know. No, it's just a preference in how he's doing it or she. But now if I put it in the context of a job, who would you pick if you are having to fill in a vacancy on an emergency room, for example? Or who would you pick if it's somebody who has to do a policymaker? in politics. Now you can see that those kind of talents are different. There is no good and bad in people, but it is the context that is deciding, can you add value or not? And that is what we do with our talent based. It's psychometrics, it's science-based, but there are also other systems. As long as you have a language so that you can say, like, these are my talents, my preferred behavior, and what kind of environment do I need in order to blossom and to thrive. Then coming back to what is your professional behavior and your competency and skills, that is something from your drives and from your values that you add on. And it's knowledge, called education, the things you have gained yourself by reading, by chatting with other people, by discovering. So that also comes into the field of experiences. The knowledge and the experiences is actually something that you can gain easily. A computer system might be complex, but as you start working with it and you're getting more experience, then you're the expert and that's it. Then it's not complex anymore. But with talents, it's a little bit different. We are people. We are juggling with so many things, but we are also recognizable and predictable because of our identity and our talents. So this is what we are saying. If you work from your talents, it's easy to develop a competency, but the environment is so important. I will give you later on another polling where it says, like, do you really think that you have the chance to contribute best in an organization? Maybe we can do that now. Maybe we can start the polling now. My question is, do you think that you really fit for every job? And how much should your talents match the work content you have? Is that 80%, 70%? Just give me a number. And then I will also ask Saad to do the third polling. I'll give you some time to do that. Do you expect that you really get the chance to contribute at your best when you're applying for a job? And this is not about your hopeful dream, but this is a reality check. When you're applying for a job, you will have to ask your question, will I get the chance to contribute at my best? As I cannot see if the attendants are seeing the quick poll, can you? Now I see some scores. From the first, how much the work content should match your talents? Right. Probably some people have a reference in Holland, and the survey comes from Holland. Brace yourself. This survey showed that only 11% is stating, I can use my talents on my job fully. Now, isn't this amazing? That people are going to a job and stating that they are not contributing. 40% of all participants on the survey said that they are not even close to their talents. Now, isn't this amazing? You're spending 8 to 10 hours a day, and maybe it's only on a contract base for 8 hours, but your mind is working also in the evening hours, that you're spending almost 40 to 50% of your human time on things that you're not good at. It's driving me nuts. This is where I'm trying to step in and make a change. And I'm not saying that I can be fully successful at it, but at least I want to make that change. I'm not accepting this anymore, and this is driving me. If I come to the second polling, can you show that sheet? Is there any outcome on that? Ah, yeah. I see some outcome. Some are saying yes and hardly. The fact is that 60 people, when they step into the job, they believe that is the case, that they will contribute at their best in terms of collaboration and their skills. And 30% are thinking hardly. And 10% are stepping into a job and saying, not at all, but I need a job. And again, I think that these are staggering numbers, shocking numbers. And what will it do if you are applying for a job and they say, like, to the company you're applying with, what is the rating on these numbers in your organization? I think that they will be shocked too and will not believe it. So let's go to make a choice. If you go for a new job, you should be aware that you are actually responsible for your own career, and that means on your career track you need companies, you need communities to develop yourself and to see where you're going. And that means if you step in, you have to team up and you have to present the building blocks, the blockchain of your talents, so that you can actually develop yourself. And it's only about having a talent dialogue. So many people are facing this annual review where people are saying, with a fixed mindset, well, this was your performance, this was the job profile you had, this was your performance. Joyce, okay. You have to improve on the things that you're not good at. But that is actually such a fixed mindset. And surveys also show from Deloitte that if you have an annual review, the performance of you next year will be less because you're focusing on the things you're not good at. Why don't you have a growth mindset and think like, I accept that I cannot do everything, but that is what I can do excellent, and there's where my growth potential lies. So don't accept development on your weakness, but only accept development on your strength. And create for yourself a kind of talent passport that says, like, this is where my talents are lying, and therefore I'm allowed to take the journey together with you. When you apply for a job, don't be afraid to say, like, I do not know how this computer program works, but I have it in me that I look forward. I'm a critical thinker. I like to solve the problems. I like to collaborate. I use my imagination and my creativity, and I'm not pulled down in some kind of silly paradigm that I just have to follow the mainstream. So presenting yourself in a different way is, I think, one of the key points. And I came up with a kind of new CV where I say, like, why would we stipulate on how much you are educated, what you have proven to be done? That is nice to know, but it's also about, what is actually the footprint you made. If we go back to the other companies, how did they leave you? What was your cooperation and your contribution in that? And what is your challenge? What kind of footprint do you want to leave in the job you're applying for, or the profession? What about your social map? how are you connected, and where do you find a challenge? Where do you want to go? Do you want to build a new society? Are you taking your citizenship serious? Do you really want to make a social, economical impact? So it's not about what you've done, but it's more about showing your potential and your drive, your willingness to learn, your willingness to adapt to the world, the challenges of the world, the technology. And you can do that by being different than a computer or a robot. You can do that by using your talents. I also presented an iPhone. It's an app. It's what we call a career coach. It's working in 15 different languages, and all the jobs in the world that are indexed on the net. You can find that. You can also get a career advice if you're saying this is the job I'm looking for. What kind of competencies are they demanding? Does that fit my talents? The app will help you to find a little bit your way in that. Coming back, your career and your employability rate, your economical employability value is coming from your dream. Don't give up your dream. Be realistic. I mean, I also understand that, sometimes you have a mortgage and you have a car to pay or whatever. That is fine. You can ask that. But realize, if companies are not willing to pay your talents, then look for something else, because there are a lot of companies and organizations who are looking for you. It's not for nothing that we call this the war on talents. So my final question is, you want this competition? You want to be better, out-competing a robot? Or do you want to use your human talents? So can I ask now to go in and for the last polling question that I have? Give it a consideration. What do you think is the most important on your CV? Your education, your knowledge, your experience, your hard technical skills, your soft, etc. Think about that. And hopefully my webinar has contributed a little bit that you really give this a consideration. Education, I don't know. I'm working with a couple of universities, and I know that there's a huge discussion on the university levels in what is the relevance of a universe, because we're just dumping knowledge, but we can actually not resonate with the demands of our society, the demands of the industrial surroundings. So universities are challenging themselves. What is our relevance? Because knowledge is at hand's reach for everybody. What about experiences? What about hard technical skills? I think if you're capable of understanding algorithms and you are willing to use artificial intelligence and computers for yourself in order to do something, then you're top on. You'll be the top dollar candidate. Anyway. Think about it, and I hope this will contribute. If you have any questions, we will, of course, present the outcome of this webinar. And if you have any questions, you can address them to Joyce of VFairs or Flare Up, and I will make an effort in answering all the questions personally to you. Hopefully this was okay. I've enjoyed doing it, although it's a little bit strange not to interact with people and have a direct interaction. But thank you, and bon weekend.
Thank you, Andre. I think it was very interesting. I would like to take the time to express my gratitude for you. I think it was a very, very nice webinar from you.
Thank you.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Say again, sorry, Joyce.
Do you hear me clear?
I can understand you, but there's still a lot of interface. But hopefully the difference between the nice weather and the cold winter here in Denmark.
Okay. we'll have to inform all candidates that the webinar will be on our site. If they would like to review it again, that will be possible. So it's going to be for a while on our site.
Yeah. Okay. And as I said before, Joyce, if people have a talent assessment, they are free to ask for it. I will provide it for free. Yeah?
Okay, people that are interested, what they have to do, Andre?
If they drop an email to you with their, of course, first name, last name, email, and their gender, their male or female, then I will add it up, and then we will make sure that they get a nice talents passport and an assessment. And if they want to go into an interview, then Jitske, my partner on Curacao, will gladly help them out.
Good. I will be also posting that information for them to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.